everybody. Here we are. We're creeping up on 300. Almost there. Let me talk about the two featured products today. The first featured product is, I just put it on there now because the website was, I had to spend a lot of time today working on the website. All right, let's take a look. Almost there. It's called Jubilee, and it is a collection of all my, let me share screen here. Hello, Karen. All right. Jubilee looks like this. And it's a collection of all my major trumpet works. So what is a major work? That's different for everybody. The way people talk about this stuff. So either for a lot of musicians or for longer periods. So like, for example, This Is the Day is a long piece for 4 trumpets. Americana Trumpet Suite is 7 trumpets, 7 movements. Nothing is Impossible, 4 parables, Hogsback Haven, The Voice of the Prophet. So it's really, I guess you could say, a serious album of trumpet pieces. And it's only available on my website, Tiger Music, which is actually tigermusicstore.com. Is it all stuff that you could get on YouTube? Yes, it is. But to have the MP3 album means you can listen to it wherever you want. Anyway, so that's today's album. And then the book is One Range, which we've been talking about all along. But let's talk about it. One Range is today's featured book. And basically, One Range is the strategy guide on how to make your upper register not feel like an upper register. Of course, you do that by moving the line. So anyway, those are the two featured products today. And so what's going on this week? I'm so close to the final stages of this series of books. It's a lot of work, that last stage, a lot of work. I'm still right now working on the introductions and stuff like that. But yes, this new book series, I gave you a sneak peek last week. We looked at some of the songs last week, and I'm very excited about it. The toughest sell is when people don't know that they need something like this, right? So, why would someone want to buy? Why would someone want to buy a book with the songs that are all in the same key. And the reason is because that's how you learn how to play in that key, is to keep playing in that key. Now, if you're doing the tonalization studies, you're one step closer to that, especially if you're doing them correctly. And you guys know that the way you do them correctly is to cycle through all the keys at a set interval, right? If you do every day, that's fine. If you do 5 days or 5 times through the tonalization studies, that's fine. If you do a whole month, that's fine. I have more and more students that are doing a whole month. Now, what this series of books does, and there's going to be 2 series like this. What this series does is it gives us material to practice when you're in that key. So for my classical students, this isn't a problem for the jazz one, because in fact, this whole philosophy came from the jazz students. I've been teaching the jazz students this way for a long time. But now for the classical students, you don't have to go out of the key to practice your assignment music. You don't have to go out of the key to practice sight reading in that key. So now on the classical side, you get true saturation. And I'm going to read. There's my Ashbird. I'm going to read something to you. It's the book blurb. It's the stuff that's going to be on the back of the book cover. Oh, I'm in the wrong folder. Okay, let me see here. Oh, all the way over to the wrong folder. Let me see. I'll have to go there more manually here. Okay, here we go. I always write the blurb and put it separate. Let me read this blurb to you because it's the best blurb I've ever written. The book is called Global Tunes of Tonality. And here we go. Here's the blurb. Global Tunes of Tonality is a revolutionary single-key immersion system designed to change how your brain processes music. By taking a deep dive into one specific key across 225 carefully selected pieces, you train your mind to truly think in that key, unlocking effortless execution and removing the hidden roadblocks holding back your technique, musicality, and overall performance. Global Tunes of Tonality is a masterclass disguised as a musical world tour to keep your mind engaged and your playing fresh during this deep dive immersion. Each book features an unparalleled variety of music. And then there's a bullet point. First bullet point, a global expedition. Traditional folk songs from 65 countries spanning every continent. Second bullet point, classical foundations, timeless classical themes, and essential orchestral trumpet excerpts. When it says classical themes, we're talking mostly orchestral stuff or Bach. There's a bunch of Bach in there. The third bullet point, I'm starting to lose my voice again. Heritage and Americana. Hymns, patriotic songs, Native American melodies, and Western folk songs. Then the third Fourth, original music, selected melodies from Eddie Lewis's compositions. And then the last paragraph on the book, on the back cover, says, while this book functions perfectly as a standalone immersion tool, you will achieve the most thorough permanent results by pairing it with tonalization studies for a complete multidimensional approach to key submersion. Stop fighting the horn, pick up your copy of Global Tunes of Tonality today, or combine your training with the full tonalization method to unlock the effortless technique, deep musicality, and complete physical freedom you didn't know you were missing. um, Javier says, hello, Eddie. Looking good. Cool t-shirt, by the way. This is a t-shirt that used to belong to my mother. And then when she passed away, I ended up with it. So, but thank you. Karen says, what do you have a link to it yet? So the book is at least 6 weeks away from being published. Like I said, there's so much more that has to be done. That the final stages of publishing a book, and keep in mind, this series has 13 books in it. And I'm not so sure how I'm going to do that, right? Do I publish them all at once? Do I spread it out, like publish one a week? I'm not so sure how I'm going to do that yet. But no, the books don't exist yet. All I have right now is the inside, the what I call the content, the musical content. Oh, Javier says, a guy on Instagram said that jazz language peaked in the bebop era. Then all there is just hip, modern outside stuff. They say melody is the most important, but they just play everything but the melody. So when they say, so do I agree with that? Not necessarily. Uh, it's almost true, right? Hello, Seppo. Nice to see you. Uh, so, is it safe to say that jazz language peaked in the bebop era? No, I don't believe that. I won't agree with that. Um, what happened is that, so for example, there's a motif. Now, keep in mind, by the way, that a lot of people don't have the same definition of jazz language as I do. So maybe according to their definition, maybe it's actually true. I can't speak for anybody else. The way I use that word is different. So there is a motif that I got from Freddie Hubbard. And in the key of C, it sounds like this. It's a variation of, but instead of having, so what I just outlined there is a motif that 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 emphasizes the G7 chord. But if you add a sharp 5, That's now a different motif. You just change one note, it's a different motif. And that's not bebop. That's not bebop. So now, did people do more stuff like than just that, right? So in this sense, I do agree, kind of, right? So even though that came from Freddie Hubbard, there were things that Freddie Hubbard would do. Right? That's not the best I've ever done on that. Let's try it again. Let me try on the lower fingering. Anyway, so you got the idea. That's like the worst I've ever done on that ever in my whole life. This is what I do. This example, which, like I said, didn't work so well. When Freddie Hubbard does that like little lip trill thing, that's not language. So in a sense, they are kind of sort of right. You could say that the language was this as they went forward. Now, there are some, I would like to say that Woody Shaw didn't fit that saying that you posted here. I would like to say that Woody Shaw had his own language. How do I know that? Because the way I look at the motifs, to me, the language is all about the motifs. Language isn't about style. It's not language to me is about what notes you play. And he used a little bit of the previous language too, but he made his own motifs. And they were strikingly different from everyone else. In fact, the only people who have even been able to come close to that are the ones who just copy him. So I think, in my opinion, Woody Shaw was the pinnacle of jazz language. Nobody's come close to that since. Okay, so yes, in that sense, I agree with them. But this other half of what you're saying, that melody is the most important. There's a difference between saying playing melodically is most important and playing the melody is most important. I don't think you're limited to playing the melody to be melodic. Okay? So by the way, Charlie Parker, when he started the whole bebop thing, that was one of the things that he changed in his playing that other people were doing. Before Charlie Parker, most jazz musicians were playing around with the melody in their improv. And that is still today a valid way to improvise. But when we talk about modern jazz, we're talking about from the bebop era forward. And that's one of the things that changed is you can play melodic without having to actually highlight the melody in your improvisation. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Seppo says he's been on complete vacation. That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. Javier says, yeah, those kind of thing. I call them circus tricks in a non-offensive way. I also call high note playing circus tricks in a non-offensive way. That I would agree with you on all that. Hello, Kevin. He says that is very reminiscent of many of your Tennessee tones. He says, hi, Mr. Lewis, howdy, and everyone else. Okay. Do you include in language tone? No, I don't. For example, no teeth, Chet Baker, airy sound. No, I don't include that in the language. The language is just the notes that you're playing. In my system. In my system, it's just the notes. You might add rhythms, but I don't. I think the rhythms aren't part of the language. You can have the same notes, but with different rhythms, and it's still good. When you do jazz language, the way I teach it, you could play it straight, and it sounds like it's swinging. Because and this is why, by the way, if you the what do you call them? The rhythm and blues players don't like you to play jazz in their band, right? If you play jazz language in a blues band, they will fire you. Most blues bands don't want that. Unless you play like a bluesy jazz, which is different, right? Like the Texas tenors and stuff like that. Now you're playing more on the blues side, and that would be the exception. But if you think about what is it that they don't like, is it because of your tone? No. Is it because of the scales that you're playing? No. What is it they don't like? They don't like the jazz motifs. They don't like the jazz motifs. When you're playing in their band, they want you to play blues motifs, and there is such a thing as blues motifs. All right, Seppo says, I just got a theater gig, show lead style. After a long break of not playing, it felt like a real barrier. I ended up to upgrade my mouthpiece. I asked from my colleague for a suitable mouthpiece, and he gave me an incredible mouthpiece for a try. It was a loud LM75M. It is not available anymore. And also tried a Patrick 75M CM27, but not even close. Are the loud mouthpieces familiar in the US? I've never heard of it myself. Then, yeah, so that's not something I've heard of for a mouthpiece brand. Let me look and see if anything comes up real quick. Yeah, there's a problem with that branding, isn't it? Because the branding is also something people would look for, and maybe that was the point. Okay, yeah, I don't know anything about it. I'm reading on the Trumpet Herald. I used to do Trumpet Herald a long time ago. Oh, that's why it went to. Seppo says the loud mouthpieces are now Stephen Patrick mouthpieces. That's why when I did the search, it went straight to Stephen Patrick. Okay, I get that. Javier says, what do you think of picking, let's say, 3 notes of a chord and try to improvise with just those, or less notes but focusing on rhythm, silence, etc.? That's how I teach. There's this thing that I teach called, I call it the improvisation expansion. And I actually start with 1 note. So like if we're in the key of C, maybe I'll start with G. And then from there, I'll add another note. It doesn't matter what note I add, it really doesn't. So you could add the E. Okay, then you can add the C. Now you've got a whole triad. And I wouldn't stop there. I would keep adding notes, keep adding notes, keep adding notes. But yes, that's what I call the improv expansion exercise. I keep wanting to say simple. Javier says, yeah, there's something called jazz police in every part of the world. They will let you know if you suck. Yes, there is that. You know, people are, I don't know. It's like, I call them zealots, right? Because it is the worst of them. This is a religion to them. And, I was able to handle what they do better once I realize that it's a different religion. They're not just playing trumpet. To them, this is their religion. They, in every way, they treat it like a religion. And because it's their religion, if we don't do it the way they say it should be done, then we are, what's that word? Apostates. There's all kinds of words, but they see us as the bad guys because it's their religion and we're going against their religion. I forget what the word is. It's not apostates. Yes, this is a thing. They come up, this is Javier again. They come up when they hear something played for regular people and not jazz enthusiasts. That's right. Well, they come up all the time for whatever reason. Seppo says, loud mouthpieces are... Oh, yes, I already read that. Javier says, yeah, Patrick has become popular lately. I agree. Personally had a lot of different mouthpieces and brands. Now I'm just using a regular Bach. And then he continues, when I first started playing trumpet, I wanted a Martin committee horn and a Monet mouthpiece. Then I realized will not make me Miles Davis for nor hitting my wife. Just joking. All right, so yes. sometimes we go back to the regular old buck and it's okay, isn't it? All right, good questions so far today. Heresy. Yes, that's a good word. Seppo says, my colleague liked the loud LM75M and ordered the Patrick version 75M. I can also say that they are not the same. The LM75M is not for sale, so I'm looking for finding one. My colleague has a friend who has 3D printed those successfully, and he plays those plastic ones now. Yeah, we're getting there, right? You can 3D print a lot of stuff. You can 3D print a lot of stuff. Karen says, I've settled on the Bach 3C for the most part that I've had forever. Yeah. You know what happens? A lot of times we start messing with mouthpieces. And it's not wrong to do that. We need to actually find out if the mouthpiece is the problem. If we're not making progress or something like that, it is possible. It is possible. People say, oh, it's not your mouthpiece. What's wrong with you? You should just work harder, blah, 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 blah. But if you're playing on the wrong mouthpiece, now, I don't believe in the whole play the right mouthpiece, you get better range. I don't believe in that. But I do believe the opposite. I believe you play the wrong mouthpiece. Let me tell you how wrong it can be. Back when I was interested in Stork, they sent me, the way they operate, you send them a credit card, they send back 10 mouthpieces, maybe a dozen mouthpieces for you to try. And what I did when I did that was to do a blind test on all the mouthpieces. And I did this for over a week. And I would use Post-its. I would put the which mouthpiece it was on the Post-it. Not the mouthpiece. So I would put A, B, C, D, E, not because it's supposed to be blind, right? I don't want to know what mouthpiece I'm playing. And I'm not exaggerating. There was a mouthpiece in that dozen mouthpieces that when I put it on my horn and tried to play it, it was as if it was stuck, like maybe a BB got stuck in there or something. That's how bad it was. I would blow and nothing would come out. I mean, nothing. I don't mean it had a bad sound. I mean, nothing came out of the horn. And I looked inside. It looked like a normal mouthpiece. It didn't have any obstructions whatsoever. But that particular mouthpiece combined with my trumpet was not a working. So if someone has the attitude, oh, it's not the mouthpiece, and gives you a mouthpiece like that when it's in your trumpet is almost unplayable, or well, not just almost. In this case, it was 100% unplayable. And I don't understand the science behind that. But you don't need the science. You don't need the science. If you know it doesn't work, yeah, for me, it's nice to know why. I'm sure it has something to do with the standing wave, that it somehow interrupts the standing wave or something like that. But that mouthpiece was played like it had a spitball in it or something. So yes, my philosophy on the mouthpieces is not that you find the right mouthpiece to make you play better. It's just you don't want to have a mouthpiece that will make you play worse. And I know that sounds like it's just semantics. I understand that because it's almost the same thing, except that it's not. There are literally hundreds of different sizes that you can play that won't make you sound terrible. You see how that works? It's not the same. It seems on the surface to be the same. It's not the same. Not every mouthpiece that you play on that's not perfect for you is going to make you play terrible. Javier says, mouthpieces are a pain in the bottom. You try a new one and it feels like the best thing ever. Always keep in mind Bobby Shoe played a cheap plastic one for some time. That's right. It is, it's very frustrating because you can play on it for a while and it sounds great, and then one day you wake up and when it's like that, I'm convinced that that's mostly a rim thing. When it's good for a while and then it's not good, I think has to do with inflammation. There are some mouthpieces that will, and you're playing fine on it, but the more you play on it, the more inflamed you get because of its mismatch on your face. Javier says, and we can all agree that he, meaning Bobby Shoe, can play. Even the Jazz Police agree. Seppo says, next week I am going to do a laboratory work on the subject, can the LM75M be replaced by Warburton mouthpieces? I have already gathered 3 cups and 5 backboards in the discipline to try those out. It's very difficult to match mouthpieces. I've been looking for a replacement for a Warburton replacement for my F1 Shoki, and I still haven't got one. Hundreds of dollars later, I still don't have a Shoki replacement yet. Kevin asks, was the problem mouthpiece a bit shallow? The first time I tried a friend's jet tone, I could not even buzz my lips. No, that wasn't the issue. I don't have problem playing on shallow mouthpieces at all. And this one wasn't shallow. It was more like a C cup kind of. I think the problem was the backbore. I really think it was the backbore. Keep in mind that there's more variety in how you can cut that backbore than there is how you can cut the cup. We think that the backbore is just the backbore. It's not like that. Now, it's always more important to find the right cup. When you find a cup that works for you, keep it. Okay? When you find a cup that works for you, keep it. Now you can start messing around with the other aspects. The cup, so like aspects like they don't call it the backbore, they call it the flare. Is that what they call it? Something like that. So yes, I think it was the flare in the backbore. Javier says those jet tone work well for very few people. They are always on eBay. So I played on a jet tone for over 10 years for all my loud gigs. In fact, if you want to hear me playing on the jet tone, I recorded, I think, 3 albums. I was maybe 4. I recorded 4 albums. 3 of them I was the horn contractor for Calvin Owens. And so, like, for example, Calvin Owens has a album. Stop Lying in My Face. That's the name of the album. Stop Lying in My Face. Okay. I'm not so sure about this specific track. I don't know how much I'm playing on this one, but this is the last. Oh, I see. This is the Stop Lying in My Face, the album. Let me see if this works. I'm gonna share a screen with the sound. Let's see what happens here.
Nothing is ever right. You never have nothing good to say. You're slowly driving me away. I'm not looking for magic or genie in disguise. I don't need no games from you. I just want you to recognize. Even a blind man can see. You're trying to take advantage of me. I know you lie.
So it's very rare for people to hear me playing lead. Because I didn't record a lot of lead. Well, lead in the sense that it's high, right? I did a lot of lead recordings, but it wasn't high like this. So those high notes that you're hearing, that's me.
And you know you're lying too. If I believe one lie you tell, you're gonna tell me another. Stop lying. In my face. Stop lying. In my face. Stop lying. In my face. Stop lying. You're gonna run in and out of my life like a child that don't get to play. It's a no-win situation when it's too many complications. I'm not looking for magic or genie in disguise. I know you're lying in my face. Stop lying in my face. Stop lying in my face. Stop lying.
Anyway, so that recording was made during the time when I was playing all of my lead stuff on a jet tone mouthpiece. Believe it or not. So for me, that particular jet tone, it was, I forget the Leon Marion model. And I know that there's a lot of people that poo-poo that mouthpiece. And in fact, I think Leon told them to stop making it. Some drama like that. But I played on that Leon Marion jet tone for a long, long time on the salsa gigs, on my recording sessions. I didn't play it on the big band gigs because when you play lead in big band, it should have a different sound. So it's not, to me, it's not about getting the high notes. Using a mouthpiece like that is not about getting the high notes. I've demonstrated to you guys before many times over that even on this big fat F1, where I can stick my finger in that far, I can play all the same notes that I can play on the lead mouthpiece. It doesn't hinder my range at all. What it changes is your sound. And it does change how easy it is to move around in the upper register too. You have more facile technique when you have a shallower mouthpiece up in the upper register. Okay, where am I? Let's see here. Karen says I have a Marsikowitz E9.1 that came with my used horn. What is that used for? I have no clue. I actually have a Marsikowitz book that talks about his mouthpieces, but I never read it because I'm not interested. It was given to me and I was just never interested in it. Kevin says agreed, and they also want a lot of money for them. Yep. Seppo says, sounds great. Just added it to my playlist. Well, there you go. His name is Calvin Owens. If you ever want to read an interesting story about a trumpet player, he's worth reading. Okay? He started off here in Houston in the 3rd Ward. By the way, the 3rd Ward of Houston is where all the famous jazz stuff happened in Houston. So, like the Texas tenors would perform there quite often, and in fact, oh, by the way, what Calvin Owens was most famous for, if you look him up, is he was not only the trumpet player for B.B. King, but he was also the road manager for B.B. King. And when he stopped doing that, he moved to Belgium and was the director of some Belgium radio orchestra. Then he moved back to Houston when he was in Belgium, he married a woman who was a member of the Belgium royalty. He came here and moved here with her and started back his label here in Houston. And that's when he started. Now, his big band is not considered a jazz big band. It's the same instrumentation as a big band, but he considered it a rhythm and blues big band. Bye, Karen. Nice to see you. Footfall asks, the old shoe Marsikwitzes are good. Yeah, I haven't played on any of the Marsikwitzes. Let me see here. All right, but I'm sure it is good. Javier says, what do you think of this custom trumpets like Taylor's, Harrelson, Del Quadro, and Pudgy? You had a Pudgy. Yes, I have a Pudgy. The custom horns are great. I think if you find one that works for you, you should play on it. But I think it's a lot harder to find one that works. If you have somebody who's willing to sit with you, like there's this guy here in Houston that makes trumpets, but he's also a trumpet player here in Houston. And he's sat with about, I guess, a dozen guys, it seems like, and made them trumpets based on their feedback. If you have something like that, you've got gold. You've got gold. Because he will shape it exactly to make it fit for you. Sippo says, did you omit my message on the site of comparing of mouthpieces? I just got known to that. Looks like a very good tool. Did I omit my message? No, I'm not sure what you're talking about. All right, Footfault says, I have a Roy Lawler trumpet and love it, but it's just different. Not any better than other horns I have, but dig the Getson valve block on it. So the Lawlers were hot in, what was it, the 90s? That was the big horn everybody wanted to have in the 90s. I remember it had a screw-on bill, so you could change out the bill. One of the things I didn't like about it, not that I ever tested it, tried it, or anything like that, the joint where the bell screwed on was in the middle of the bill. And I guess it has to be there because you can't screw it on anywhere else. If you know what I'm saying, because if it was in the bend, you wouldn't be able to put it on there. But I just didn't like that much weight in the middle of the bill. I didn't like that. But keep in mind, I never played one. But the idea of having that much weight in the middle of the bell bothered me. So Kevin asks, are all those custom horns truly custom, or are they taking a box strad or similar and hot rodding it? Now, the old Callets, the old Callet trumpets would just take a buck and modify it. But most of these others, the only thing they don't do themselves normally is the valve casing. Usually they'll use a valve casing from another company. But yes, the rest of it is truly custom. They actually make the bill from scratch. They'll make the slides from scratch. Javier says, if the horn is good, I guess the brand doesn't matter. That's right. There are some heavy horns, though. Better buy a tuba. That's That's funny. All right, any more questions? Never, Javier says, never seen or played a shoki. They are not popular in my country, but the mouthpieces are great. Yeah, I love my. Let me tell you my shoki story. I never had a shoki before, and then a student comes in with a F2, an adult student. He's somebody that used to be. He was the father of someone I used to teach, and when the lessons were over, he said, "I would like to come in for lessons every once in a while." He plays first trumpet, or last time I saw him, played first trumpet in the Fort Bend Symphony Orchestra. So for someone that doesn't do this for a living, he's doing pretty good. So I told him, "You sound wonderful. What did you do?" And he goes, "Oh, that's my mouthpiece." And he we washed it off with some alcohol, and I played on it, and it was one of those moments where, you know, we rarely have this in the trumpet world, but it was like the trumpet equivalent, the mouthpiece equivalent of love at first sight. It was like, oh, I gotta have this. I immediately got online and ordered the F1, not the F2, because my lips, I need the bigger size. And so that's the first part of the story. And I've been playing on that for a long time. And so when I started doing these recordings, I told you I'm trying to record what was going to be almost 300 is now up to almost 500. 500 tracks almost. And I thought, you know what? This mouthpiece is not going to be appropriate for the most advanced songs in this series that I'm recording. And by the way, as a tangent, I just want to tell Seppo, thanks again. I think there were 4 songs from Finland that ended up in the book. So one of them was one that you didn't recommend, but I put it in anyway. It was the hymn from Finlandia. I put that in the book. It's beautiful, isn't it? That's such a beautiful hymn by Sibelius, I think. Yeah. Anyway, so my story. I thought I was going to have to use the other shoki that I've got that I also like very well. And that's the M1, which is just like a C cup, but it plays so nice. But I'm listening to the playback on the M1 and I'm like, that's not my sound. So I started recording all of this stuff on the F1. Now, when you listen to these recordings, you might look at the etude and say, he's not playing double forte. Well, that's something I sort of had to give up, is playing high in the upper register on that deep V cup. If I try to play high, I crack all the notes. I mean, not high. If I try to play loud on those high notes, I can't control it. And I think it's because it's that bathtub mouthpiece. So I backed off on the dynamics in the upper register for the stuff that was written to be louder. And it's just because I love that sound. I love it. And I would rather have, and there's a lot of people that don't think this way, right? I would rather have a few cracked notes um, and stuff like that than to give up that sound. Now, how far can I maintain it? I don't know. I'm halfway through the pro level book, which means I have maybe, I don't know, maybe 18 more A2s that go up to the pro level. And then I have a whole book of master level etudes, which I think it's 30 something etudes. And by the way, I'm not publishing the books until I have the recordings done. So that's what's holding that series up. That probably won't get published till next year. Don't get that confused with the one that will be published in about 6 weeks. It's two different series. Both of them have, well, there's actually 3 different series in total. This whole project is 35 different books. Can you believe that? 35 different books. I'm glad I bought so many ISB numbers because we're going to be using them up. What is it? ISB? Oh no, ISRC numbers, whatever they're called. I don't remember the abbreviation. Javier says, how would you practice the licks transcripted to C? What do you mean by that? I must have missed something. I don't know what you're asking. Footfault says, what's your favorite go-to warm-up if you can only pick one exercise? It'd be Clark's or minor major 7 chord outlines. When I'm short of time, I just improvise. I don't do a full warm-up. So you can actually warm up. This is my fake warm-up. And then I'm done. That's all. That's all I would do. I wouldn't. And that you can stretch to make it fit whatever time you've got. So that's just my thing. When I'm short on time, I don't do any of those things. Seppo says, maybe it is because I posted a link and they are maybe not allowed. I really wanted to share the link, but it looks like that it is not allowed here. That shouldn't be the case. You're talking about today? Are you talking about a link you shared today? Seppo says, great. It's great that you put those finished melodies in the book. You know, they're very, this is the amazing thing about this book. Since it's all in one key. Bye, Javier. Nice to see you. Since the book is all in one key, there's a lot of repetition from the same notes, literally the same notes. And the different songs actually sound like they're from the country they're from. That's the amazing thing about it. And it's not because I'm phrasing different or anything like that. This is very close to what I teach for the jazz stuff, right? About the jazz language. It's the combination of notes that makes it sound like jazz. And so, like the Finnish stuff sounds like it's from Finland. I have some Swiss songs, they sound like they're from Switzerland. I have some Austrian songs, they sound like. So, I guess they've blocked the links. That's amazing. That's amazing. I didn't know that was a thing. Yes, you're right. It's blocking the links. I didn't know. Footfault says, do you think valve guards affect the resonance of the horn? Yes, they do. Remember, however, that there are two resonances. Okay? There are two resonances. There's the resonance of the instrument, the metal, the instrument itself. Then there's the resonance of the air column. They are not the same. And the air column can and does vibrate at a different frequency from the metal. Anything that you do to change the weight of your trumpet will change the resonance of the instrument itself, not the air column. It doesn't affect the air column. It does not affect the resonance of the air inside the instrument. But it does affect the resonance of the instrument itself. Always keep in mind when we're talking about resonance, we're talking about those two things. It's not just one resonance. And my understanding of why people will do a weighted trumpet is to bring the resonance frequency down so that the resonance is in the upper partials. And when you're in the upper partials, you have fewer notes that are going to conflict with that vibrating trumpet. So always keep that in mind. It's not just one resonance. So when you ping the bell, ping, 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 that's not affecting the air column. Seppo says, I will send a link via email. Looks like a really nice tool when switching between mouthpiece brands. Maybe you already know of it. There are charts that I've seen, but I'm not sure what you're talking about. So yes, send me the link. I'm happy to look at it. All right, guys, we're 10 minutes past. Thank you for hanging out. God bless you. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and another wonderful week. And we will see you next time. God bless you.